Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Lance Donovan. I'm 31 years old, and until recently, I thought I was one of the good guys. I sat behind a terminal in a high-security building 3 blocks from the Pentagon, surrounded by the hum of climate-controlled air and the quiet dread that comes with handling classified systems. For 6 years, I worked for a private contractor called Fortivac Systems, the kind of firm you don't read about unless something goes wrong. We had government contracts with Homeland Security, the Treasury, and a few alphabet agencies that never made it into press releases. My job was clean and surgical, combing through firmware updates, firewall logic, and authentication protocols, making sure our systems could withstand any attack, foreign or domestic. It was tedious work, but it mattered. Or so I thought. My supervisor, Gerald Kessler, was the type of guy who always wore polished shoes and used words like agile pipeline and strategic leverage. He was also the one who signed off on every single line of code that touched a government endpoint. Last Tuesday, I was doing what I always did, double-checking a firmware patch scheduled for deployment to a federal monitoring grid. Something didn't feel right. Buried in the subroutine was a strange flag, an exception that didn't belong. It was subtle, almost beautiful in how well hidden it was. A callback channel. An unauthorized backdoor. I ran the trace 3 times. Each time, it routed to an encrypted offshore server. The signature on the approval? Gerald. I walked into his office with the printouts, expecting him to panic. Instead, he smirked and leaned back like I'd caught a typo in a budget report. "You're overthinking it," he said. "Some clients need flexible access protocols." "This isn't access," I told him. "It's exfiltration." And that's when it hit me, this wasn't a bug or a lazy oversight. It was intentional. Gerald didn't blink. "Lance, maybe you're in the wrong field. You don't understand how this business works." That sentence broke something in me. 6 years of believing I was defending national security, only to learn that the breach wasn't coming from some foreign hacker in a bunker, but from my own chain of command. I went back to my desk, calm on the outside, but my stomach felt like ice. I plugged in my encrypted drive and began copying logs, approval chains, and the compromised code. Every line was time-stamped. Every breach led back to Gerald. I used to believe that if you followed the rules, you were safe. That loyalty was a kind of armor. But that Tuesday taught me something I'll never forget. The real enemy doesn't knock on the front door. He has your badge number memorized. The drive home that night felt like I was on autopilot. I couldn't remember the turns or the traffic lights, I just remember gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't even turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, surrounded by glowing monitors and silence, except for the low hum of my encrypted laptop scanning the files I'd just taken. Every click, every scroll through the documentation felt like peeling back a layer of my own betrayal. The logs didn't just confirm the breach I'd found, they revealed a pattern. 18 months. That's how long Gerald had been pushing these backdoors. System after system. Department of Homeland Security. The Treasury. Multiple defense contractors. And me? I'd been his alibi the entire time. My signature was on the review team. My coding patterns were used to blend in the vulnerabilities. He used my integrity to cover his treason. I remember staring at the screen and thinking. This could end everything I've worked for. If I blow the whistle, who's going to believe me? He's a supervisor. I'm just a paranoid analyst. Then I thought about my father. My dad was a straight-laced Air Force veteran who spent more time teaching me about ethics than sports. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching, he used to say. But what do you do when everyone's watching, and they're all waiting for you to shut up? That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I opened my phone and saw 2 missed calls from Gerald, and a message. Come to my office first thing. Alone. When I walked into the building, the receptionist didn't make eye contact. Gerald's door was already open. He looked like hell. Tie undone. Hair unkempt. Sweat on his forehead. Sit down, he barked. He spun his laptop toward me. On the screen was a performance report, my name at the top, but filled with red marks. Missed deadlines. Unauthorized access. Unstable behavior. All fabricated. You've been sloppy, Lance, he said. HR is concerned. Your clearance is up for renewal next month. You think DHS wants someone on the edge? I stared at him. You're trying to blackmail me. He smiled. I'm giving you a chance to walk away. Send an email to DHS. Tell them you made a mistake with the firmware. Say it was test code. He was asking me to lie to federal agents. To become complicit. I told him I needed time to think. He gave me until noon. I walked back to my desk, surrounded by people I used to think of as colleagues, but now, I couldn't trust a single one of them. They didn't know. They didn't see what I saw. But I did. At 11:58 a.m., I opened my email, not to retract anything, but to expose more. I attached new evidence, access logs, copy traffic, a time-stamped threat from Gerald himself. Then I wrote this line. If I go down for telling the truth, at least I won't have to carry your crimes on my conscience. I clicked send. 2 minutes later, Gerald showed up at my desk with a security guard and someone from HR. Lance Donovan, you're terminated for insubordination. Gather your things. They made me do the walk of shame in front of everyone. I looked at each of them and thought. If only you knew what he was really doing. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, watching my inbox. My entire career was gone. My reputation. Likely destroyed. But at 4:03 p.m., a message pinged. Subject line. Confirmed, meet me tonight. Dr. Patricia Williams, DHS Cyber Division. And that's when I knew. I hadn't lost everything. I had just stepped into the real war. The coffee shop was just off Wilson Boulevard in Arlington, quiet, tucked between a law office and a yoga studio. It was the kind of place you'd never look twice at. Which made it perfect for a covert meeting. Dr. Patricia Williams was already there when I walked in. Mid-50s, sharp eyes behind silver-rimmed glasses, black blazer, no smile. She wasn't here for coffee. She motioned to the chair across from her. Next to her sat a tall man in a gray suit, clean shave, blank expression, and a badge he only flashed once. Lance Donovan? He asked. I nodded. This is Agent Torres. FBI Cyber Division, Dr. Williams said. We reviewed the materials you submitted. We have questions. I sat. My palms were sweating. Torres didn't waste time. He opened a laptop and showed me screenshots, network logs, data flows, protocol maps. You're not the first person to notice something, he said. But your report? It's the first that's actionable. It confirms suspicions we've had for 6 months. 6 months. Dr. Williams leaned in. We've been tracking unusual data exfiltration patterns across multiple agencies, slow, surgical breaches. Someone knew what they were doing. I swallowed hard. How bad is it? Worse than you think, she said. She tapped the screen. The Backdoors Gerald installed match similar breaches at 12 other systems. Not just Homeland Security or Treasury. We're talking defense contractors, nuclear monitoring systems, real-time military logistics feeds. I stared at them. So Gerald, he was selling access. Torres gave a slow nod. We believe he was working with, or at least being used by, foreign intelligence operatives. Your documentation helped us connect the final dots. We're now preparing to execute warrants across multiple states. Then came the part that made my stomach drop. We're not sure he acted alone, Dr. Williams said. We suspect others inside Fortivax were complicit. I thought about Patricia Quinn, one of the system's admins. David Walsh, project manager on the Treasury account. People I'd trusted. People who laughed at the same dumb cafeteria jokes. Could they have been in on this? Torres pulled out a notepad. We need you to walk us through everything you know, how the approval protocols work, who else touched these files, where Gerald kept his backups. Anything. I spent the next 3 hours unloading everything. From our internal review logs to the secret folder Gerald kept under a fake username. The way he brushed off concerns, the fake performance report. They took notes. Recorded my voice. Captured every detail. When it was over, Dr. Williams handed me a card. From now on, speak to no one but us. Not your former co-workers. Not friends. Not even family. Until we move, this investigation stays silent. I nodded. Then she added something else. Be careful. If Gerald's working with a foreign intel group, he's not just going to sit back while we build a case. You're now a threat to someone much bigger than your old boss. As I walked back to my car that night, it truly hit me. This wasn't about job loss anymore. It wasn't about betrayal or career sabotage. This was espionage. And I had just become the key witness. I was supposed to feel safe now. I'd gone to the authorities. I'd done the right thing. But all I felt was exposed. For the next 3 days, I kept my curtains drawn and my phone on silent. Every knock at the door made my heart skip. Every car that idled too long outside made me reach for the blinds. And yet, beneath the fear, something else began to stir, resolve. Gerald hadn't just betrayed national security, he tried to bury me to protect himself. He'd used my reputation as his shield. Then, when I refused to stay quiet, he forged documents, sabotaged my future, and marched me out of that office like I was trash. The FBI and DHS were working their angle. But I needed mine. See, revenge isn't just about punishment. It's about truth. And if Gerald wanted to control the narrative, I was about to take that power from him. Step 1, secure the leverage. I went back through my encrypted backups, collecting proof of the smear campaign, timestamps, version history of the forged performance report, access logs showing only his credentials. I included voice memos I'd recorded from our meetings, nothing illegal, just my own phone in my pocket, capturing every veiled threat. I compiled all of it into a single file. I called it Kessler_truthdump.zip. Step 2, control the timing. I contacted a journalist I knew from my time at Virginia Tech, Kara Singh, now working for a cybersecurity column in a mid-tier investigative outlet. I didn't tell her everything, just enough. That a whistleblower had uncovered a massive breach in federal systems, and that a high-level contractor was trying to destroy the only person who found it. She was skeptical at first. Then I sent her a redacted portion of the files. Her reply was instant. When can we talk? Step 3, trigger the panic. I scheduled a private Zoom call between Kara, myself, and a federal contact, Agent Torres, who agreed to be present but silent, only to validate that I wasn't some basement conspiracy theorist. Kara was stunned. Her expression changed halfway through the documents. From skepticism to horror. This is real, she whispered. And they fired you? They framed me, I corrected. Because I didn't stay quiet. She asked if I wanted to go on record. I hesitated. But then I remembered that walk through the office, how they all looked at me like I was unstable, unreliable, guilty. Yes, I said. Use my name. I knew what that meant. No more hiding. No more safety in silence. But silence is what lets people like Gerald thrive. Step 4. Expose his network. While DHS gathered internal evidence, I kept digging into Patricia Quinn and David Walsh, the two colleagues I now suspected were part of Gerald's circle. Through metadata and project logs, I found something. They were the ones who first implemented emergency protocol revisions, the same ones that carried Gerald's backdoor code. It had been right in front of me. Hidden in routine updates that no one else questioned. I documented it all and sent it directly to Dr. Williams. She replied within 30 minutes. Confirmed. Their access has been frozen. Surveillance teams are in motion. I wasn't just a witness now. I was an asset. By the end of the week, I sat in my apartment as the headline broke across Kara's site. Exclusive, fired contractor exposes backdoors in U.S. systems, and the boss who tried to silence him. It spread fast. Too fast. The kind of story government PR teams hate. Suddenly, Gerald's world was shrinking. DHS froze Fortivax's contracts. Internal Affairs launched emergency audits. The story hit Reddit, Twitter, and eventually, national media. And I knew, wherever Gerald was, he was watching it all burn. I woke up to a headline that made my breath catch in my throat. FBI executes early morning raid on contractor linked to federal security breach. There was no mention of Gerald's name, not yet. But I knew what it meant. I texted Dr. Williams one word, confirmed. Her reply came a few minutes later. Confirmed. We've seized servers, hard drives, workstations. 3 in custody. More to follow. It was happening. Everything I'd risked, my career, my reputation, my sanity, was finally being validated. Fortivax Systems, the place I had given 6 years of my life to, was no longer just a quiet government contractor. It was now a crime scene. And Gerald? He wasn't smug anymore. By 10 a.m., Kara Singh's follow-up article dropped. This time, she named names. Sources confirm arrest of Fortivax exec in connection to federal data breaches. And just like that, Gerald Kessler was national news. The article didn't detail the backdoor code, those pieces were still classified. But it painted him clearly as the linchpin in a scheme that compromised Homeland Security systems for over a year and a half. Torres called me that afternoon. Lance, I thought you'd want to hear it from us. Kessler is in custody. He was arrested at 5:12 a.m. in his townhouse in Georgetown. No resistance. Very polite. Very quiet. Was he surprised? Not at all, Torres said. That's what bothered me. I was still absorbing that when Dr. Williams added something I hadn't expected. We found encrypted transaction logs. Offshore accounts. Kessler was paid over $2 million. But it didn't stop there. 2 others had been arrested during the same sweep. Patricia Quinn, the systems admin who had repeatedly overridden approval protocols under network optimization flags. David Walsh, the project manager who'd filed the internal compliance evaluations Gerald used to manufacture my dismissal. I sat back in my chair and closed my eyes. These weren't just co-workers. They were people I'd joked with, eaten lunch with, leaned on during 3 a.m. patch deployments. They had smiled to my face, and sold out national security behind my back. Later that day, I was invited to DHS headquarters. This time, it wasn't just Dr. Williams and Torres in the room. There were people from the Department of Justice, and a man who introduced himself as Director Morrison, head of the FBI's cyber division. He didn't waste time. Mr. Donovan, your documentation was key to our operation. You didn't just expose a breach, you helped us connect the internal structure of an espionage cell. An espionage cell. Not just corporate fraud. Not just sabotage. Espionage. I asked if they knew where the data had gone. Dr. Williams replied, 2 separate intelligence services. One in Eastern Europe. One in Southeast Asia. This wasn't just about money, it was about leverage. Then Director Morrison looked me dead in the eye. You may have just prevented the next Black Swan cyber event. They offered me a choice. I could continue as a witness in the case, protected and low profile. Or I could work directly with them. As a classified systems architect. DHS. FBI. Full clearance. Direct action. I didn't answer immediately. I needed time to think. Because while justice was being served, I knew something deep in my gut. Gerald wasn't finished. Men like him don't just fold. They scheme. They cut deals. And he knew too much. 2 weeks passed. I thought the storm was settling. Kessler was in custody. Fortivac Systems was effectively shut down. Patricia and David had both agreed to cooperate in exchange for reduced sentences, giving the FBI names, encrypted chat logs, and internal access audit trails. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt something else. Tension. Because just as the investigation seemed to be wrapping up, things stopped moving. Calls that used to come daily now came every few days. Meetings were delayed. Torres stopped replying to texts. And then came the moment that chilled me more than anything since this started. I opened my secure email inbox and saw a message from Dr. Williams. Don't go public with anything else. Don't speak to Kara again. We need to talk. That night, we met not in the DHS building, but in a nondescript parking garage in Arlington. No joke. Like something out of a Cold War movie. Dr. Williams was in her car, alone, engine running. She didn't mince words. There's someone protecting Gerald. Someone high. I blinked. Inside DHS. She hesitated. Possibly. Possibly higher. She slid me a folder. Inside were redacted emails between Fortivac's executives and a name I recognized from the Office of Federal Procurement Policy. A powerful man with clearance above nearly anyone we'd dealt with so far. He intervened during the early audit attempts, she said. Twice. Claims it was about contract stability. But now we know he signed off on fast-track reviews for software packages containing backdoor code. I was stunned. You're saying, he knew. Dr. Williams nodded slowly. He was likely complicit, or paid to look away. And then came the gut punch. He's trying to get Gerald's case reassigned. To have him treated as a contractual deviation instead of a national security threat. In other words, he was trying to make it all go away. I stood there in the dim parking garage, stunned. I'd spent months thinking this was about one man. One rogue executive. But now I realized what Gerald had said that day in his office wasn't arrogance, it was certainty. Lance, don't act like you're above the business model. He was part of something institutional. Protected. Backed. Funded. And worse. If they buried him quietly, they'd bury me next. You have 2 options, Dr. Williams said. Keep cooperating with us and let the Bureau fight through layers of red tape, or go loud again. Just know, if you do, it won't just be your job on the line. I thought about it the whole ride home. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about a machine that thrived on silence. And I was the only one still willing to make noise. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch, staring at the folder Dr. Williams had given me, redactions and all, feeling the weight of what I now knew. This wasn't a single betrayal. It was systemic. Fortivacs had been a symptom, Gerald, Patricia, David, just visible cracks in a foundation that was already rotting from the inside. And the man in procurement? He wasn't just shielding Gerald. He was protecting the pipeline. Millions in government contracts, funneled into the hands of a few people who made security look real while they sold it off piece by piece. And somewhere along the line, my name became part of that cover. I could have stopped. Could have played it safe, waited for indictments, trusted the system to work through its molasses. But I didn't trust the system anymore. So I made a decision. I called Kara Singh. This is bigger, I told her. Much bigger than Gerald. I gave her a sanitized version of the folder, a summary, names redacted, but just enough to expose the connections. Within hours, she confirmed that the procurement official had signed off on nearly every major federal cybersecurity contract issued to Fortivax over the past 5 years. And that his office had fast-tracked dozens of software deployments with no third-party audits. Her voice was shaking when she said it. This could go all the way to the top, Lance. 3 days later, Kara's article dropped. Exclusive, DHS contractor whistleblower ties national security breach to federal procurement insider. It exploded. This wasn't just another contractor scandal anymore. Now it was a government cover-up. The story made national television. Think pieces flooded in. Congress announced emergency hearings. By day's end, both Fortivax and the Office of Federal Procurement Policy were trending on every platform. And the man protecting Gerald? He resigned before the day was over. The next morning, I was summoned to DHS again, but not by Dr. Williams. This time, I walked into a federal courtroom. Not as a defendant. Not even as a witness. But as a hero. I sat in the front row as the judge read Gerald Kessler's charges: espionage, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to undermine federal security systems. 15 years. No parole. Patricia Quinn and David Walsh both took plea deals, 5 and 7 years respectively. The federal procurement official. Under sealed indictment. Charges pending. The machine had finally cracked open. That afternoon, Dr. Williams invited me back to DHS for a closed-door debriefing. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. She just handed me a folder with a clearance badge, an appointment letter, and 3 words typed at the top. Department of Homeland Security, Strategic Cyber Defense Division. This isn't a reward, she said. This is a battlefield. And you already proved you know which side you're on. I nodded. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I was walking toward it. That weekend, I drove out to my father's farm in Southern Virginia. We sat on the porch like we used to, quiet, surrounded by fields and fireflies. He didn't ask for details. He just looked me in the eye and said, "You did what was right, even when it cost you." I nodded. Sometimes, I said, doing the right thing doesn't just cost you everything. It gives you everything back. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.